toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well.
That sounds like a party about to begin, ladies and gentlemen.
My well was thrown off because my mic wasn't on quite in time. So I got to, well.
That's okay. You pulled it out. Right. You saved it.
Yeah. So if it was a little off there, that's why. I'm a creature of habit. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We'll be talking about all of those things today because those are, quite frankly, good things.
That's all I know how to talk about, to be honest.
This is show number 339.
That's halfway to 400, my friend.
We're getting there quickly.
I've done the math.
Yeah, I appreciate because
I did grow up in Liberty, but that's the math I know.
But I refuse to do math on the show, so that's it's good that you're here to
that's not my job.
That. Yeah, it's good that you're here to accomplish that. I want to say big thanks to last week's special guest, Michael Fothrop, the brand ambassador for Courvoisier. If you missed last week's show, we were getting quite fancy.
Yes.
We had Courvoisier. And
when in doubt, pinky out.
And we tasted two expressions, one that would have been on the upper end of my budget and one that would have been completely light years away from my budget. But boy, were they both good. They really were.
Like that second one we tried was not a bad price for a car.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I was like, wait, what did
I've
you
spent
say?
that much on a used car.
Exactly. Well, anyway, we're excited about today's show. We're going to be talking about the best whiskeys and the best whiskey bars, and that's something we actually even had in the title of the show a couple of weeks ago and never got to. So,
right. Yeah. So
we'll
sometimes we get distracted and start talking about Nicolas Cage or something.
It happens. It has happened on more than one occasion, as a matter of fact. And today, show number 339 for Smokin' and Toastin' marks yet another landmark for this show, another moment in time, if you will, because today we have people in the studio actually observing the show.
I have no idea what they're in for.
Why don't you introduce your guest observers who are over here?
So we have Bill Monroe and his son. I met Bill at kind of a little social gathering at Bojangles Music Studio where I teach guitar, and him and some colleagues were there, and I happened to be finishing up my lessons, and we got to hang out and talking about the whiskey we were drinking and things like that, and he was interested in checking out the podcast studio. So I invited him on.
Well, welcome here. If we're to the point, first of all, we reached that point where we started claiming that we were world famous because my mom became aware that the show existed. And that's, you have to understand, my mom doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't like that I do any of those things. And so I never talked to her about it because why bring that up with Mom? And so when she became aware that the show existed, that's when I knew truly our fame had grown to some pretty interesting proportions.
We've hit the big time.
And now we've hit yet another major spot for us because we've got people actually observing the show.
Right.
And I'll just say now, this is a very good sort of a masterclass in what not to do in podcasting. So take notes.
Also, don't try this at home.
Yeah, exactly.
No, go ahead. I mean, that's why we're trying it too.
Try it at home if you like. I have brought us in a mystery beverage today, Ian.
This is one of the weirdest looking mystery beverages I've seen.
I'm not sure what color that is.
Greenish, blackish.
Greenish, bluish, gray? I don't know.
Yeah, it's I have fluorocarbon strings on my ukulele, and it's almost the exact same color. I'm sure that reference doesn't help anybody.
I was going to say,
listening.
you connected with a whopping group of people that are familiar with the
There's one person out there that's like,
strings.
oh, I know exactly what that looks like.
You ever see an odd Mountain Dew?
It kind of does. Now, isn't there a Mountain Dew that's this color?
I think there. I mean, yes, there has to be. There's so many colors of Mountain Dew.
Terry,
Yes.
our engineer, is a Mountain Dew guy.
Yeah,
right?
Blackberry Smoke or something like that. Wait, that's a band. Isn't
That's
it?
a band. Yep. So I will tell you, if you're not familiar with us doing the mystery beverage, this is where one of us will bring something in, not let the others know what it is until it's been tasted and pronounced to be either good, bad, or otherwise.
It actually smells slightly like berry and mostly like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of nose going on.
Not much
with it.
on the nose. So drink up, guys, and tell me what you think.
Oh, it's nothing like what I expected. It has a little it has a charcoal kind of flavor going on to it, doesn't it? Like
Yeah, that's
I like a charcoal aftertaste,
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of?
except for it's not stuck in my teeth.
Remember those bushes that your grandmother would have growing at her house that had those little berries on them that smelled real funky? Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
These little hard gray berries that would grow on and they'd be used like to line a sidewalk or something. That's what this reminds me
I don't
of.
know that I like this very much.
It's definitely not a Mountain Dew flavor. It's not sweet like
There's no
Mountain Dew.
sweetness.
No
I was
sweetness
expecting
at all.
sweet. I kind
Yeah,
of.
I was too.
It's
I don't like it at all.
charcoaly bitter and it leaves my mouth watering, but not necessarily in the best way.
So I'll tell you this: it is a beer.
This is a beer.
This is a beer. Yes. And
How do
now-
they even call this a beer? Like it has no beer-like qualities.
They call it a beer because it is brewed right up the street from us at Eureka Heights. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you with Lavender Bunny.
Aha! I have actually tried this before and didn't like it then.
Buckle
either.
Bunny with lavender
And I
in it.
love Eureka Heights.
And I love Buckle Bunny.
I love Eureka
So
Heights.
this is cream ale, which Buckle Bunny is, with lavender butterfly pea flower. No, with lavender and butterfly pea flower. So that's two different
Was
things.
it butterfly
not one.
pea
Is that
flower?
is that the flavor we're tasting? Butterfly pea flower?
When butterflies pee on a flower, and then you add it into the no, I'm not crazy about this. They say we added a little bit of magic, is their word, to this delightful cream ale. Butterfly pea flower and lavender help create. It's hard to read because the
can's shiny.
reflects this crazy rainbow.
It's like
thing.
an iridescent can.
Butterfly pea flower and lavender help create the perfect harmony on this can of purple drink. Purple drink.
Purple drank.
Yeah.
Purple drink.
But not sweet like purple drank.
Yeah.
No, this is not slowing my roll.
Yeah.
This is
For sure. So yeah. So I think this was a unanimous no from us.
no,
on the,
and I love Eureka Heights. They're,
I do too.
You know, I mean, they created Buckle Bunny and immediately went off and got gold at GABF.
Yeah,
like that's how good that beer is.
It is one of the best cream ales
It's
ever.
so good, and
It's
they have
really
a
good.
ton of other great beers. This one, not my favorite. I mean,
I
maybe
love-
it tastes seltzer-like, so I could see someone
Yeah.
maybe enjoying that.
Yeah.
I like that it's not sweet, but I don't like anything else about it.
I love Buckle Bunny because it's the perfect beer to recommend if you are talking to someone who likes, who is essentially a macro brew
Right.
drinker, and they're like, "Well, what would I like?" And you're not going to hit them over the head.
Yeah,
with a
if
big
they drink
IPA
Miller Lite.
or a barley wine or something.
You can't really help somebody though that really likes Bud Light and or Coors Light.
Yeah.
there's no help for that.
Well, but you can always try to bring them along and you let them try some Buckle Bunny. It's kind of like saying, well, if all you ever eat is hamburgers, I can't introduce you to a good steak, right?
Well, I suppose there's that, right?
And of course the only problem with that comparison is there are some really amazing hamburgers.
That's
I've
true.
yet
True.
to taste the amazing Coors Light.
I mean, Bubba's Burger over there on
Yeah.
West
dude.
Park. Ooh.
Dude, that place I used to live
Under
close
the
to there.
freeway.
Yeah,
I
little
used
shack
to
under
go
the
over
freeway.
there
It's
all
amazing.
the time. I haven't been back in a long time, but now I'm going.
Oh yeah,
You totally reminded me. And it's just an old house
Yeah,
under the freeway.
under the freeway.
And it's great. It's absolutely great. If you're ever in Houston, look it up, Bubba's Burgers. So welcome to Smoking and Toasting number 339. My name is Cruz. My erstwhile co-host is Ian Barry.
Howdy, y'all.
On the Wheels of Steel, we have Mr. Terry Michaels, and Adam in the Sky is our executive producer of the show. Wanted to ask if you'd had an opportunity to smoke anything interesting this weekend.
Well, it's funny you asked because I did.
I
I
had a
tipped
feeling.
over to Casa de
feeling.
Monte Cristo this morning and rifled through their ample supply of cigars.
They don't like when you rifle through. They do have a great selection, but
How about I
rifling,
pillaged? Is that better?
Probably not. No, probably not. No, but at least you were pillaging without the raping. That's the good part.
There's that.
Yeah.
There's that. So I ended up with a Romeo y Julieta, the
nice.
Book of Love.
Oh, I've read about this.
I believe we actually talked about this as one to look
talked about
for
it
coming
being
out. It just
released,
came out
yes.
recently, like a month ago, I think, or maybe sooner. This is a 6x52 Toro. It's an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, Dominican binder and filler. One of the cool, interesting things is the packaging that the cigars come in. They come in a box that looks like a book that you open up.
right,
a big red
the Book of Love. Yes, yeah.
And anyway, the appearance on this, it's a beautiful cigar. It's gentle milk chocolate in color, somewhat gentle color. I'm not sure where I came up with that, but I like
gentle
it.
color. That's descriptive.
Yeah, right. Somewhat uneven texture. I was going to say lumpy, but I like somewhat uneven
By the
texture.
way, this
better.
is not a gentle color, just so you know.
that's not too
Yeah.
gentle. It's veiny, it's oily, it's a medium firmness overall with some softer spots on it. Classic Romeo y Julieta band, plus a secondary Book of Love band, and then it's boxed like a book. I already said that. The pre-light sniff on this, I got coffee and mocha, earth, and some sweetened mulch, kind of like rich, when someone just turns the mulch into the ground kind of flavor.
I like to call it loamy.
Loamy, nice. I like that. Let's see. I used a punch, the pre-light draw on this. I used a punch. It had a light draw, light tobacco flavors. Sweet raisin was very present in that. Some coffee, tangy leather note on the lips. The initial light on this was earthy and leathery, classic tobacco and tea leaf. Retrohale is sweet and nutty. The first third of this. Overall sweetness comprised of leather, earth, tea leaf, raisin, and a touch of coffee, followed by fermented hay, cashew, baking spices, and a kiss of pepper. I'm not saying that this was a complex cigar right off the bat, but wow, this was pretty complex right off the bat.
Cool.
And I used two different syllables on complex in that last sentence. Tangy leather on the lips. Retrohale is campfire and nutty, solid ash, perfect burn. The second third of the cigar. Massive plumes of sweet smoke delivered sweet, nutty, and complex flavors. Sweet tea and leather move forward and usher in tangy, woody notes. I need to get I need to get something to stop using the word sweet, but I'm going to use that a bunch more. The retrohale is sweet and nutty with a kiss of pepper. Solid ash, perfect burn. You'll see that in the picture right here. The last third of this solid medium strength profile is kind of where it started, kind of where it stayed. Baking spices and pepper ramp up a little bit here and surprisingly accentuate the sweet raisin and earthy notes. It's really good up to this point. And then a slightly bitter flavor was introduced. And it didn't get any better. The bitter flavor kind of was distracting. It was a little frustrating. And then so I was over the cigar. The retrohale is woody and sweet with pepper and solid ash, perfect burn. This cigar, $13.62.
I had a feeling it was not cheap. Yeah,
it's not cheap. That's definitely in a super premium range, and I give it a solid 4. It was a really good cigar right up to the end where it got that bitterness.
You were cooking along until the bitterness hit, right?
But at that price range, I can get cigars that don't have a disappointing end to them.
Right.
I did love a lot of things about it. That incredibly oily wrapper was really nice. The kind of wrapper you could just chew on and you know it's not going to break even.
You think the bitterness is something that was kind of like inherent in the blend, or you think it could have been just the one you had?
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, if you like the flavors, the cigar is worth at least trying for the flavors that I gave up.
And it's a pretty consistent brand overall.
Romeo and Julieta is hard to go wrong with any of their blends.
Yeah,
so.
I think some of the first cigars I ever tried were Romeo and Julietas, and and I still smoke them to this day. In fact, just got a couple of Romeo and Julietas by AJ Fernandez in the humidor this week.
Nice.
So looking forward to smoking those. I'll tell you about my cigar for this week coming up in the next segment. We are going to take a break here momentarily, but I also want to let you know that we're going to be tasting some very interesting things on the program
like
today.
Lavender beer.
Yeah, well, maybe less interesting than that, but probably more delicious.
You kind of turned me off at lavender anyway. I wouldn't have gotten.
I'm not a big lavender guy. My ex-wife used to chew lavender gum, and I always thought it was just ugh. That's not an edible flavor. That's a smelling flavor.
Sounds like for laundry.
Yeah, exactly. But in addition to our lavender mystery beverage, we'll be tasting from Sapwood Cellars Brewery their Drink It Down English-Style Brown A. They're out of Brown Ale. I'm sorry. They're out of Columbia, Maryland, and there's a lot of great breweries in that area of Columbia. From Thirsty Planet Brewing in Austin, Texas, their Fat Bat Hazy IPA.
I haven't tried that one.
And from Equilibrium Brewery in Middletown, New York, their Graceland Imperial Pastry Stout. And Graceland, obviously a reference to where Elvis lives or lived, and there is a banana on the front. So I don't know if this is going to be. Well, he may. He doesn't still live, but he may reside.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll get to.
I feel like I saw him at
we'll get to all of that.
Park one
plus the Whistler, an Irish whiskey finished in Imperial Stout barrels. We'll get to all of that coming up. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, our show all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
I love those things.
All the way up to number 339 this week, and heard, by the way, on radio stations all across the country, or at least in a couple of spots across the country. And it
starts
growing.
with a pebble, sir.
So welcome to our esteemed radio audience. And EJ, I'm getting ahead of myself with what I'm going to talk about here. Ian told you about his cigar this week, the Monte Cristo, the Romeo and Juliet Book of Love. And I'm going to tell you about mine, the A.J. Fernandez Rosa de Guadalupe Robusto.
Ooh.
Now, I'm not completely sure how I missed this cigar. As a devoted AJ fanboy, you would think that I would be up to speed on everything he releases, including what he does on the side for other cigar makers and brands. But somehow, in between my love for the New World Dorado and the Bella Artes, I completely overlooked the Rosa de Guadalupe, which, by the way, is Spanish for Rosa of Guadalupe.
Yes.
Just in case you needed to,
Good translations.
AJ apparently released this cigar back in 2019, and for whatever reason, it has flown much more under the radar than his other creations. So I took it upon myself to check it out and to see if it's worth your time and money to track this one down, because it's not quite as ubiquitous as some of his other blends. The Rosa de Guadalupe is a wonderful, smooth, dark brown cigar with almost no visible veins. Plus, it was packed solid with tobacco. I mean, it was
Super
almost
tight,
hard to the touch. Yeah, so much that I worried that the draw might be problematic. But AJ's blend on the Rosa used a Mexican San Andres wrapper draped around Nicaraguan binder and filler, pretty much textbook AJ Fernandez combination. I used a punch and took in the pre-light aroma, black pepper, chocolate, earth, and a malty note. So far,
that
so
sounds
good.
nothing like AJ.
Yeah, I toasted the foot. That's why I said so far so good, right?
Yeah.
I toasted the foot and got a nice little Nicaraguan pepper blast before the Rosa settled down into a medium-bodied first third. Pepper took center stage pretty much from the beginning, which left a nice tang on my tongue. Beneath the pepper were malt, tea leaf, cedar, and chocolate. Construction seemed very good at the outset, and the Rosa de Guadalupe gave off a nice volume of gray-blue smoke. Not a great cigar to smoke if you're around people who complain about cigar smoke.
Lots of smoke.
It was a lot, yeah. Anyway, the draw, I needn't have worried. It was absolutely perfect. By the second third, we had entered medium to full-bodied territory, and there seemed to be no looking back. While the first third smoked more like AJ's Enclave series, the second gave me more of a New World vibe. A little bit of earthiness crept into the mix at this point, and a sort of savory note as well, kind of like the smoked crust of a well-grilled steak.
Nice.
A little charcoaly. The blend reminded me of a little bit of a Man of War, which was one of AJ's early blends. Not quite as much complexity as the New World, but plenty of pepper and plenty of punch. By the last third, it was an out-and-out, full-bodied cigar. Leather was added to the mix. The savory meatiness began to share top billing with the pepper. The pepper, by the way, was less of a black pepper vibe and almost a little bit of jalapeno. Really kind of like
pepper.
that. Draw and burn were what every cigar should aspire to, especially sticks that cost $8 or more. I've had $15 cigars that didn't burn this well, and that's a tribute to the skill of the rollers in AJ's factory. I broke the first chunk of ash off into the ashtray when it was about 1.5 inches long, and it sat there solid in the tray like the entire time. No flakiness, no relights or adjustments needed for the burn. The cigar finished strong, both in flavor and in strength, ramping up to full-bodied in the last third. I also got a toasted almond flavor that was a nice addition to the overall vibe in the last third. Cigar smoked for well over an hour, which is pretty good for a Robusto.
Yeah.
Overall, I enjoyed the Rosa de Guadalupe very much, although I do still have other favorites at AJ's line that I may like a little better. Still, I will add this to my regular cigar rotation for sure. The fact that I have a regular cigar rotation should tell you a lot about me. Rosa de Guadalupe is a $6 to $7 cigar and more than worth the asking price. Price to quality, I would give it a 6. And yes, I am a fanboy. That kept me from rating it even higher. I'm trying to be objective for you guys. So, so I don't want to just go, oh, yeah, whatever. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time to start a tasting. And I don't mean lavender beer. We're going to taste some stuff that I think we're going to really like. Coming up next on Smoking to Toast.
Sounds awesome.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And that sound right there. And that's a wonderful, wonderful sound. It's like a beacon. Like, instead of, if you could have amplified that That would have been better than the triangle that they used to ring for dinner.
You know, here's the
what I
thing.
mean?
Like, we try to keep things authentic. So instead of having a recording of opening a beer, we actually sacrifice an
Yes.
actual beer every
An
single
actual
time
open a beer.
you
Yes.
hear that sound.
Yes, and I would say that no beers were killed during this broadcast,
Yeah, no,
but that would be a
all
lie.
these beers were harmed, yes.
Yes, and most of them were completely killed by the time it's all over. Just wanted to mention this last week. The entertainment business lost one of its tiny giants. Pee Wee Herman passed away this week, and I'm really sad about that because I was a fan of Pee Wee. Like I just thought the stuff that he did was this weird sort of infantile genius. You know,
He did that little laugh.
I don't know. Anyway, just wanted to say hey to Pee Wee and thanks for all the entertainment, and you will be missed. Although I haven't seen him do much of anything recently. He's been in a few
Reno
movies.
911 was
Not
the
as
last
being-
stuff
not
I had
as
seen
being-
him
yeah,
in. That
yeah.
way he was doing that. And don't forget he did the Disney stuff. Don't forget he did Fly to the Navigator. He was the
Oh,
actual
yeah.
spaceship.
Oh,
and
yeah.
on the Star Tours ride there in Disney, he originally played the captain of the ship, the little robot that accidentally got
Yes, that was
stuck in
Pee-wee.
there, and that was Pee Wee screaming around in
and
there.
he was in one of the Batman movies, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was. He played the Penguin in something.
Oh.
It wasn't.
Maybe it was the cartoon one that they have. Was it?
I forget now
Don't
because
know.
there's been so many iterations. But anyway, we'll toast to Pee Wee as we try our next beverage. And the beverage that we're trying, Ian, this is a very
This is
interesting brown ale.
Sapwood Cellars, Drink It Down. I love the name of it already.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Coming in at 5.2% alcohol by volume.
It's an English-style brown ale, which automatically makes me think of,
It
know,
says this isn't an India brown ale or sour brown or an Imperial brown. It's just a classic brown brew with English, Maris Otter, chocolate, and caramel malts.
Ooh.
Hopped with crystal and fermented with our house English ale. The result has notes of coffee, ice cream, toasted bread, and orange marmalade. Cheers, Mike and Scott.
So right as you said chocolate, what was it? Chocolate something malts?
Chocolate and caramel malts.
Chocolate
oh my
and caramel
gosh.
malts. Right as you
This is
said those
outrageously good.
Right as you said those words, those flavors totally hit my palate as I was taking that first sip. And you're right about the coffee. I get that more on the finish, but boy, chocolate.
The
caramel
retrohale is
malt,
all coffee. Mm-hmm. Like you take a sip and then breathe gently out of your nose. All coffee.
That's all coffee, and it leaves a coffee finish. I think
It does.
For sure
It
on
does.
the tongue.
But in a good kind of English bitters kind of way.
Right.
It's so interestingly coffee bitter, but English bitter kind of thing.
So what is that brown ale that's the most Newcastle brown ale?
Newcastle brown ale.
This is a little more full flavored than a Newcastle.
Yes,
I like
yes.
Newcastle, but
Yeah.
this is more full flavored.
Newcastle's fine, especially if you find Newcastle in a little mini keg. Man, it's really, really good because
I was going to say I don't know if I've ever had it on
then you
tap.
don't get any of the exposure from the clear bottle on the Newcastle. It's really, really nice.
But drink it down. This brewery, Sapwood Cellars Brewery,
Columbia, Maryland.
out of Columbia, Maryland, and I have a buddy of mine is from the Baltimore area, and he keeps telling me we've got to go to Columbia and do like a show because there's so many cool breweries there.
This has to be a little tongue in cheek, but it says this beer is vegan.
Isn't all beer vegan?
I would think so.
Or it's like
I don't
it's
think
like-
I don't think we brew it with beef broth usually. You know?
To borrow a line from Ron White, the comedian, you mean to tell me there's no ham in this? Yeah, that's.
I'm gonna need some chicken broth. I'm making a beer.
Yeah.
No, and then it says enzymatically treated to remove gluten, so it's also gluten free. Now, gluten is something that happens in beer. So if you are sensitive to gluten, as I have a few friends that are,
But there are some good gluten-free beers.
yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
There are. You may have to search them out, but they do exist. And this one would be added to that
Not
list.
so much with lavender beers.
No.
gluten free.
There's not a lot of good lavender beers that I'm aware
Although
of.
I've tried a lot of lavender free beers that are actually quite good.
Lavender-free beers?
Yes,
Yeah, the ones that
lavender-free
have no
beers,
lavender in them.
lavender in
Yeah,
them.
I'm with
That I
you on
really
that.
truly enjoy.
I'm with you on that.
So
Well,
we're lambasting them a little bit, aren't we?
yeah, but see, I feel like we can do it because we love these guys.
Those guys, they're so funny
and-
anyway.
Eureka Heights. And I want to totally say this because I really do mean this. I wasn't crazy about the beer, but I love that they tried to do it. You know what I mean?
Their
That
brewery
they
is a hoot too. If you're ever in
experimented and
Houston,
oh yeah,
it's just north of I-10, just outside of downtown in the Heights.
I came out to see your former band play out there.
You did, and we didn't play. That was a whole story.
Yeah, that's when the bass
player
player got in his car and drove away or something like that.
No, yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. But your current band is doing really good, aren't you?
Yeah, so I got a country band that we're playing called Willow Creek Junction. If you get a chance to download
people
it,
can check out on like Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify,
and
all that.
Apple
So we
Music,
just released a song called Best Boots. That's been doing pretty well on Texas charts and around.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask, because I heard you got some sort of. You topped a particular chart.
Yes, and I can't remember which one it was, but one of the unique download charts, I think.
It's the Cruise's favorite chart.
The Cruise's favorite chart.
You're number one with a bullet.
Number one with a bullet. So yeah, it's been going pretty well. It's been getting a little bit of viral movement out there. I'm pretty happy about that. We're about to drop another one called Naka Nowhere. If you're from the Texas area, you know where Naka Nowhere is.
Yeah, I've been there.
There's a town called Nacogdoches that's pretty far out. It's been lovingly referred to as Naka Nowhere for years.
Isn't that
also the home of the college SFA Sam Houston.
Now I was going to
Stephen F. Austin. Sorry.
To tie it all together. Back to talking about our favorite beers and stuff. You guys play very frequently at one of my favorite breweries in the world.
I know you haven't come out to see us there yet.
I know I've seen you, but not there. I definitely need to do that. My problem is I live a long way from Lone Pine, and the idea of Ubering out there would be very expensive. The idea of driving out there and maybe only having one beer seems unlikely.
See, so out in the country, we pack the house.
Yeah.
Like we do. We bring out a bunch of people. We pack the house. And it really kind of boils down to the financials. You know, when you pack the house out there, you get paid well. You drive into Houston, and club owner's like, we can start your band at $300. And I'm like, well, there's 6 of us. Yeah. And you want us to bring a PA system?
Right, exactly.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So I understand. And there's a lot of bands that make it. My wife and I went out this weekend out to the Burbs and saw a really cool 70s funk revival local band called the Carl Toney Project, and they were awesome.
Are you awesome friends with these guys?
I met them at a panel I was on.
So you met them once, and you'll drive out to see them, but you don't come out to see my band.
Well, it's
at
not,
your favorite brewery.
It's not all the way. This is like just up 290 a little ways. But yes, point
Look,
taken.
I got you to turn red.
To be fair, they never malorted him.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. I've never been malorted by the Carl Toney band, and they gave my wife a rose. So there you go. Hey, I wanted to tell you about speaking of Texas things. Since we're talking about Texas bands and Texas things. There's an Irish distillery called Clonakilty. Are you familiar with it? All right. Well, they are collaborating with one of our favorite Texas distilleries, Garrison Brothers.
Diggity dog.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's dog spelled with a W, by the way, D-A-W-G.
Oh, and I thought it was
Texas.
I thought it was D-O-G-G.
No, that's
Snoop Dogg.
That's California.
All right. So Clonakilty Distillery
party.
They're a family-run, state-of-the-art distillery located on the southwestern Irish coast, and an unlikely collaboration has broken out between them and Garrison Brothers Distillery, and they've announced the release of a 7-year-old Irish single malt whiskey, which will enter into the Texas market as a unique fusion of Irish whiskey and Texas bourbon.
Oh, I'm in. I want to try that.
Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah, it sounds great.
We're trying an Irish whiskey today, but
I'm a fan. Some people don't like Irish whiskey as kind of as a whole, but I'm a fan of Irish whiskey.
One of my favorite go-tos is Slane, which is an Irish whiskey. It's great. It's affordable.
Redbreast is amazing, although expensive.
And
but Jameson gets talked down because I think it's one of those things where when you get so ubiquitous, like someone like Jameson is like, if you ask anybody, do you know what an Irish whiskey is? They'd be like, Jameson, right? But they're great. That whiskey's fine.
I have a Jameson special bottle that I've been slowly working on for a while. It's the Distiller's Dog.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really,
I remember
really
that.
good
You brought
whiskey.
it in.
Yeah, I did bring it in. Of course, I had already cleared the neck and taken
I
away
noticed
all
on the
of
Irish whiskey today, you didn't follow the OSHA compliance of...
No. So you're going to have to be really careful.
I'm going to be at risk of...
Put on your goggles and helmet.
Scratching and or cutting my finger by taking the foil off of
That'll be later on in the show. By the way, when we get to that whiskey, interestingly enough, it's not just an Irish whiskey, but it is an Irish whiskey that has been finished in Imperial Stout barrels. So I'm really excited. I'm not familiar with the Boann Distillery, but their whiskey is called the Whistler and finished in Imperial Stout barrels. I'm really psyched to try this because, often by the time we get to, if we're sampling a whiskey on the show, by the time we get to that, maybe in the next segment we'll have our biggest beer, which sometimes is an Imperial Stout, and it's always interesting how those two will complement each other when you go back and forth. So we'll be getting to another stout actually today as well.
I love that you started off with a brown ale. This brown ale is outrageously good, by the way.
Very, very good. And next we'll go to an IPA from a brewery in Austin called Thirsty Planet, which is one of the cooler brewery names ever.
They have one called Thirsty Goat. It's fantastic. That's their amber ale. It's really good.
Yep, that is really good. We'll be trying their Fat Bat. It's a hazy IPA. And
Fat Bat. Are they talking about like a baseball bat, or are they talking about like
they're talking about a bat. You know, Austin famously has like the caves where people go and watch the bats fly out at dusk, and it's bats are a big thing. We have that here in Houston as well, by the way. But Austin kind of does a better job of publicizing.
Our caves look more like bridges over a bayou, but yeah.
I get it. The Austin caves are a little more cave-like, but in any event,
they exhibit more cave-like qualities than our caves.
I think that's where the bat thing came from. But you'll see when we get to the can, it has a very fat bat on the cover, which is kind of nice. Hey, good news for cigar aficionados and fans, and particularly for anyone who does business in the cigar industry. The UPS and Teamster deal looks like it is going to take place, and the reason this is important is because it's important, obviously, if you're not affiliated with either UPS or the Teamsters Union. The reason it's important is almost all cigar shipments, not only from cigar online retailers to consumers, but from cigar manufacturers to stores, brick and mortar stores, almost all of those are shipped UPS. And the reason is because that Federal Express and U.S. Postal Service will not allow you to legally ship tobacco. So UPS does the huge bulk portion of shipping this. So if there had been an actual UPS strike, it would have essentially halted cigar deliveries into the United States.
Do you wonder
not to mention to you if you ordered it on JR.
Do they have to comply with specific government laws about government tobacco laws, or state tobacco laws that you have to keep up with, those kind of things?
I'm sure there is some of that, but UPS is an organization that is actually willing to do that, whereas Postal Service and FedEx just say no tobacco. Now, in fairness, I've received plenty of cigars FedEx from friends.
Yes.
But not, they weren't labeled cigars on the outside of the package.
What's in this box?
Yeah.
Books.
Yeah. and I can tell you, coming from the radio and record industry, there's a lot of other stuff that used to get shipped in FedEx packages.
What's in this box?
Well. Yeah.
More books.
Yeah. The article in Cigar Aficionado said we don't have a concrete percentage, but by far the majority of the cigars that are shipped to the United States are sent via UPS. And so that's basically they're saying they only have two choices, U.S. mail and UPS, but U.S. mail, because it is government established, is more prone to regulations and things like that would be potentially problematic. And I was trying to think back, because I've ordered cigars online from a number of different manufacturers, and I think all of them have arrived UPS.
Yeah.
I don't think I remember a time when it was any different. So anyway, good news. It looks like the strike has been averted.
I've gotten a few packages from UPS that look like they went through the training facility.
I know exactly what you mean. And because I live in a big high-rise building downtown, and I just feel so bad for the Amazon drivers. They pull up in their trucks and they unload this huge pallet
of packages,
boxes, and they all look like the life has been drained from them. These poor guys. I don't know. I just feel for them. I think there's so many packages being delivered every day now in the United States.
But they don't deliver in a building like that. They deliver them downstairs. They don't deliver it to every floor, right? So and they gotta love that. They gotta wheel that in and be like, here you go.
I'm sure those guys love it much more than if I send something to send an Amazon package to my mom's house. They're driving out to the middle of nowhere, and nothing's clearly marked, and it's dirt roads. They're like, who lives out here, and
cattle gates and dirt roads?
Why do they need this little book, or hee-haw DVD or whatever it may be? So, that's true. I have gifted my mom hee-haw DVDs.
Nice.
That's why I pulled that out, because that's happened. But anyway, I do appreciate the Amazon deliveries, and I very much appreciate the UPS deliveries, and I hope you guys are happy with your settlement, because we need you.
Yeah.
As fans of cigars.
Got to
we
move
need you.
those cigars.
Yeah, absolutely. Still to come on the program today. Of course, I didn't even do our drinking news teaser headline, so perhaps I should tell you about that. Not only do we have more beers to sample and the Irish whiskey that we mentioned, but we will be bringing you this show's most popular segment coming up in the second hour, and that, of course, is drinking news. That's where we bring you a story from the news that is, very, very likely to be true. We at least believe that they're
It's
true.
supposedly true. Yeah.
But it's stories that are sometimes not always about drinking, but always best listened to when you've been drinking. And today's Drinking News teaser headline: is that a reptile in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? So we'll get to that coming up. It is Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
I love those things.
My name is Cruz. This is Ian Barry, and we are still kind of drinking the last of this brown ale. This is really good.
Yeah, I want like some of that Shinerbach bread to like sop up the rest of this.
I'm with you. Going to tell you about some cigars to watch for at your local cigar shop. Rocky Patel is doing something very unique with an upcoming release of the Rocky Patel Dark Star. It's a Honduran rolled cigar that contains a small amount of tobacco that has its origins in Paraguay. I don't know if I've ever smoked any
I've
cigar
never even heard of tobacco coming from
Paraguay tobacco in it. It's an unusual tobacco, and it's a part of Dark Star's filler blend. Is a seed from Paraguay that's being grown actually in Honduras. It's the opposite of Esteli, Rocky says, referring to the region in Nicaragua that's known for its spicy strength. He says it's got more of a nutty characteristic, very close to Costa Rica and a lot of almond. It's not sweet, but it's got a sweeter constitution to it. There's just one leaf of this varietal in the filler blend, so it's not a lot. But the blend also has tobacco from the Jamastran Valley of Honduras and the Jalapa region of Nicaragua. The binder is Mexican San Andres, which is kind of seems like it's the go-to for a lot of these now. The wrapper is a Corojo seed grown in Honduras. Dark Star is meant to smoke somewhat like a Cuban cigar, Rocky says, but it's not strong. He was trying to make a cigar that's Cuban-esque but more mild to medium. It will come in a Robusto, in a Toro, in a 60, and the extra pudgy Short Star. And the retail price will be between $10.50 and $12.50.
If he's got a 60,
yeah.
And then he's calling the Short Star extra pudgy.
Yeah. Well, the 60 is a longer cigar, obviously.
Right.
So that's Rocky's used unusual tobaccos before. He's used Panamanian tobacco in the Edge, and that became a huge success. So we'll see what happens. Alec Bradley Fine and Rare is returning for the first time since the brand was sold to Scandinavian Tobacco Group. This year's limited edition of Fire and Rare BCN 143 from Alec Bradley is scheduled to ship in November, and like all of the previous Fine and Rare releases, it will contain 10 different tobaccos.
Wow.
Now, Cigar Aficionado went on to say that this has been highly successful for Alec and Bradley, except for one off year. Apparently, 1 year the blend didn't really work all that well.
Not so much.
Yeah, but it's been very significantly well received by cigar aficionados. It's going to use a binder. It's going to use a Honduran Criollo 98 wrapper, 2 binders, one Honduran and one Nicaraguan, and then a blend of the following tobaccos: Honduran Criollo 98, Nicaraguan Criollo 98, Honduran Criollo 98 from a different area. In fact, all of the filler tobacco is either Criollo or Corojo, but they're from a lot of different regions.
Wow.
And so the filler tobaccos, they say, will be both Ligero and Viso primings, and it'll combine to 10 different leaves. Cigars will retail for $25.99, and only 2,500 boxes are being produced. So, yeah, there you go. For those of you who can afford to splurge, it might be something interesting to try. And finally, the new EP Carrillo Short Run 2023, which is the first short run made in Honduras, is on its way to cigar stores as we speak.
Oh, I love EPC.
Yeah,
I'm going to definitely try that.
This version of Short Run is rolled under contract for EP Carrillo by one of your favorites, Oscar Valadares Tobacco Company, based in Honduras. It was previewed at the PCA trade show and apparently was very well received. It'll come in 3 sizes: a Robusto, which is 5x50, a Toro, which is 6x52, and a Gordo, which is 6x60. Price will range from $10.75 to $12.75 for the short.
I love EPC's big ring gauges. They're probably some of my favorite big ring gauges.
I really like their cigars in general. I've just found, I remember when it was during the middle of the pandemic, when one of the first times we ventured out, all of us with our masks on, and you and I, we went to see Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Remember? And our buddy Alan Denny was with us, and he brought some of those EP Carrillo.
Pledge.
Was it the Pledge?
Yeah,
that was
just came out. Yeah,
oh my goodness, that was such a wonderful experience.
Oh, man, we had great
Bill
time.
Burr was great. We drank lots of beer and smoked lots of cigars.
Yes, we did.
It was because you can do that in an outdoor show. It's a very, very cool thing. All right, we are going to take a break here in just a moment, but coming up, we still have, of course, drinking news, which we told you about, and we'll be getting back to that. We also have several more things that we are going to sample, including Thirsty Planet's Fat Bat Hazy IPA, the Equilibrium Brewery's Graceland Imperial Pastry Stout. And
that's easy for you to say.
Speaking of Imperial Pastry Stout, those are the barrels that our whiskey rested in that we're going to be sampling later on in the show, which is the Whistler Irish Whiskey. So I'm looking forward to that, even though it hasn't been opened yet. Exercise extreme caution, Ian, when opening and pouring the whiskey.
I will.
We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. All things that we love. That was extra special good.
Yes, one more beer sacrifice for the sound.
We understand that that's a necessary part of the program. The recent big whiskey event was, of course, the San Francisco World Spirits Competition for 2023, and I wanted to share with you
It was a spiritual event.
Some of the absolutely a spiritual event. I wanted to share with you some of the category winners, because this is always a very interesting event, and it's pretty much regarded as, kind of like how the Great American Beer Festival is regarded as kind of like the craft beer event. This is kind of the spirits event for most people, I think. The Best in Show whiskey winner and Best Single Malt whiskey was Tomatin Highland Single Malt 36 year.
Ooh.
Yeah, so Tomatin.
I'm sure that doesn't cost much.
One of the lesser known gems of Scotch whiskey. I'm looking to see if they give us a price point. On it, but so far I haven't.
Tomatin 36 year.
I bet you could look it up and discover it's $1 or $2. Yeah, Tomatin 36 year. Let me get the title right here. Let me find it.
36-year-old batch
Highland
one.
Single Malt. Yeah.
It's $1,499 for a bottle.
I can see how that could, potentially do well at the big festival there. Best overall bourbon was from Augusta Distillery, Buckner's 13-year-old single barrel. Also won the best single barrel bourbon in the 11 years and older
That's a pretty old
category.
bourbon. A lot of times bourbons are 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
Best straight bourbon is William Heavenhill, 9th edition bourbon. The latest expression in a long-running series of special edition bourbons released by Heaven Hill.
It's real hard to go wrong with Heaven Hill.
2008. And it's an exceptional bourbon, although they say it is among the most expensive bourbons currently available at a list price of over $1,000 a bottle. So, So
those extra years tack on a little time.
Us sharing this with you is kind of like people that read the Rob Report. We've talked about this on the show before. The Rob Report is that magazine that's all about
this is a great bourbon
the
to stock on your airplane.
You should own and all that kind of stuff. And I'm convinced, by the way, that less than 5% of the Rob Report's readers are people who can actually afford those things, but they're mostly people like us that go, wow, wouldn't that be great? So in order to dream, you can go for things like the Best Small Batch Bourbon Award for up to 5 years, which went to Mystic Farm and Distillery's Broken Oak Small Batch Bourbon, which comes in at 50% ABV. And the Best Small Batch Bourbon was Colonel E.H. Taylor Small Batch Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
I got a bottle of that at my house.
Yes, and that one didn't cost you $1,000.
It did not, actually. Yeah. That one's not even expensive. If you can find it, it's $42 or $40-something.
Now, I haven't heard of this one. Tell me if you ever heard of this. The Best Single Barrel Bourbon up to 10 years was Whiskey Thief Distilling's 12 Riders on the Storm.
I haven't seen that.
I love both the distillery
Yes.
name and the bourbon name.
Whiskey Thief I've heard of, but I've never heard the whiskey.
It is a 10-year-old craft distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky. And they gave it some really big notes. Doc Swanson's exploratory cask French toasted bourbon was the best special barrel finished bourbon. The best Tennessee whiskey was Jack Daniel's 12-year-old. And the best rye whiskey was Lock, Stock, and Barrel Vatted Straight Rye Whiskey. The best American single malt, Lost Lantern Gentle Giant, Balcones Distilling in Texas.
Balcones.
The single malt.
Crushing it.
Those guys have been crushing it for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
They really. Those guys and Garrison Brothers, I feel like, are their notoriety is extending well outside of Texas. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great Texas distilleries, a lot of them. But those guys seem to have kind of punched through the noise a little bit and become known above and beyond the Texas state line. Best American blended whiskey, High Bank Distillery Whiskey War Barrel Select Double Pinot Noir.
Select Double?
It's easy for me to read, I guess. It's a 57.75% ABV, and it is apparently quite a thing. Best special barrel finished whiskey is Rare Character Whiskey Single Barrel Hakita Cask Finished Rye. And the best blended Scotch no age statement, Johnny Walker Blonde. I've never had Johnny Walker Blonde.
I've never had the blonde. I've had the gold.
Yeah, I've had
the gold. I've had the blue. I've had the black. I've
blue.
had the double black. I brought the double black on the show one time, I think.
And the best distillers
And
single,
red. We don't talk about red.
The best and for good reason. The best distiller's single malt Scotch no age statement was the Glendronach Portwood single malt.
Glendronach, it's hard to go wrong with too.
Yeah, that is a very good whiskey. So we're gonna have an interesting one on today's show because it's not mentioned in any of these, but it certainly looks interesting. The Whistler Irish whiskey finished in Imperial Stout barrels.
It's just
sitting there taunting us.
It's whispering at
Yes,
me.
you are in fact the whiskey whisperer.
Whiskey whisperer.
So Ian has poured us a concoction here from a brewery in Austin, and it is the Fat Bat.
This is
Hazy
Austin Hazy Fat Bat. Mm-hmm. Coming in at 5.8, we're bumping it up just a little bit on this one. Mm-hmm. I love that it has the picture of the bat on there. It says Thirsty Planet, and this says enjoyed upside down.
Yeah,
it would have been a one level funnier if the labels were all upside down.
Yeah, see, I would have probably gone for that. Go ahead and show that can. I know we have the B-roll, but go ahead and show that can just so people can see. Yes, that is indeed a fat bat. He almost looks like a piece of Halloween candy. Is what he looks like,
it's a pretty good, a pretty good rendition of a bat.
Right. So,
don't have a whole lot of other information on the can, but that's pretty fun.
So right off the bat, if you will pardon the pun, I am an IPA fan, and I particularly love hazies. So I'm excited to see what the guys at Thirsty Planet have done.
I'm going to see what you think of this one. Let's see. I'm picking up some interesting flavors, especially on the front end of it.
I get there's lots of citrus and mango.
Mango is big. Mm-hmm. It's like a real pulpy kind of mango kind of
Maybe
flavor.
even a little pineapple in there?
Maybe. It's got this interesting, almost malty character that happens at the very beginning of this that immediately disappears and turns into
hazy IPA
hazy
hop.
pulpy mango thing. And then it has this bitter finish that kind of like that old like that old gum, the gator gum that used to make you like
that makes you salivate.
Salivate like crazy. It kind of leaves my mouth feeling like that.
I really like it. I think it's a fairly unique take on hazy. It's getting to the point now because so many different breweries have done hazy or juicy IPAs, and so many of them are really a little difficult to tell apart from the other ones.
Yeah.
And this one, and I think it's the bitter on the finish that makes this a little different, a little unique. I really do
it's
like
an interesting bitter too, though, because it's not a pine cone kind of bitter.
No, it's almost more like like when you have a cocktail and it has bitters in it.
I was almost that. I was going to say almost an astringent bitter, like you get if you get a little pecan shell in your mouth or something like that.
And that's where that Doritos effect comes from.
Right.
You immediately want more. I agree. I think it's really good. And
Thirsty Planet does very solid beers. I drink Thirsty Planet, especially when I'm in Austin. But they have like I said, their Thirsty Goat is their amber ale, and they have a few others that are really fun. I think they're all named after.
So I picked
some kind of critter.
Yeah, I picked this up in New Braunfels when I was there for the family reunion and tubing extravaganza, and that was that was one of the things I saw. I was like, oh, I have to try that.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
look at that can. So that's the way that worked out for me. But I think that's delicious. I would most definitely go for that. Would you?
I love the range of beers that we try on the show.
Well,
Like, we just try a little bit of everything.
We do try for variety. We really do. We've gone from the lavender beer to the brown ale to the hazy IPA, and
Because I don't think there's a lot
Stout.
of people like I don't think either one of us are the kind of people like. I just don't drink the same thing every time. I don't smoke the same cigar every time. I want to try different stuff all the time.
Now, where do you line up for Trappist beers? Is that a thing you like?
I love Trappist beers.
Well, there's a new article in Food and Wine, very reputable website and magazine.
I mean, if you like those things.
Yeah. But they're saying that beer lovers shouldn't lose faith in Trappist breweries just yet, but they are expressing that there is a very real danger that Trappist breweries could go extinct.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah. Well, in an era dominated by lagers and hazy IPAs and non-alcoholic beers, Trappist brews, they say, have remained a small but quintessential part of the global craft beer experience. But even as their existence is threatened, they say, due to factors like the rising cost of the ingredients and an aging workforce, the handful that remain continue to churn out some of the most iconic beers in the world. A few of them, though, have fallen over the last several years. Several of them which I can't pronounce, but one in Austria, I think it's called Stift nglish-Style. And the United States' only Trappist brewery ever to exist, Spencer Brewery. Both of those shut down last year.
That's sad.
After 8 years of operations. And the International Trappist Association, yes, there is such a thing, they revoked Achill Abbey's official Trappist brewery title when the last two monks transferred away. So I guess to be a real Trappist brewery, you have to have monks on site.
Yes. If you don't have a monk on site, there's no Trappist ale. There's a few styles though that I think have fallen a little out of favor, and I'm sad to see. I'm glad to see that Belgians kind of still stay there under the surface a little bit because I love Belgian style beers. I love all the fruity, ridiculous big beers like that. Some of them got taken over a bit by the sour. Ale
the sour
craze.
craze that really hit. Well, according to the head of marketing at West Molly and ITA, Manu Powells, he says he's very quick to point out that Trappist beer is not actually a style. Rather, it's a designation that must meet three conditions to be considered authentically Trappist. It is brewed in a Trappist abbey, and it is produced entirely under the control of the Trappist monks of that abbey. And he explains that Trappist is the common name referring to the monastics belonging to the order of Cistercians of strict observance. I'm not pronouncing that right. I apologize. My monk is not that good.
I'm sure that has been slaughtered.
Yeah. I've spent more time with Monk, the TV show, than I have with actual monks. But anyway, third, the revenue serves for the sustenance of that abbey community and to support charitable causes. So if it doesn't have all three of those things, it is not considered Trappist beer. But again, Trappist is not necessarily a style. I associate Trappist with a certain style because I think of Chimay and some of the other
Roquefort, things like that.
Yeah. But the reality is, it's not a style; it's a description of how and what the conditions have to be that it's produced under to make that
shows what
to
I
make that
know.
work. Yeah, well, you're not a monk either. You know?
I'm not.
So, all right, let's review. We have great stuff coming up on the show, including drinking news. We have more to sample, including from Boann Distillery, the Whistler, the Irish whiskey finished in Imperial Stout barrels. And we're going to go back and forth with that, I think, in our Imperial Pastry Stout, which we're going to be trying in the next couple of segments as well. Plus, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about the greatest whiskey bars in the country. When I think of whiskey bars, I think of a couple here locally that I love.
Yeah, Room 101,
which is really
Poison
close to my house,
Girl.
which I love. Yeah, Poison Girl's great.
I mean, there's some great ones that have popped up and made their name like that.
But that's just in our backyard. The greatest ones in the world. These are places to put on your, vacation destination bucket list. Yeah, for sure. So we're going to be getting to those here in just a couple of minutes, and I'm forgetting now which segment we're on. Are we here?
We are here and going
thank you.
here.
Very good. So that means we're just about about time for us to take a break. But before we do, let me tell you about the latest celebrity whiskey. There's another one. Leonard Skinner.
Leonard Skinner has a vanity project.
They're releasing Hell House Whiskey, and it is designed to raise a toast to the timeless spirit of rock and roll in time for the band's 50th anniversary. And they show a picture in the article. They show a picture of the guys, and I was just like, wow. Those guys have been on the road for many, many
The only
years.
original member is the guy that drives the tour bus.
Yeah. I like to say about when somebody goes to see Foghat, I go, yeah, the Triangle player is an original member.
Right.
So, all right. Well, we are going to take a break and come back. We have drinking news yet to do. We have some more drinking to do, and we're going to tell you about these whiskey bars that you must experience coming up at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I was thinking about how there's so many like celebrity whiskeys and tequilas and all this stuff. I think that the cooler wine and spirit and beer shops like Specs here in our town and whatever it is in your town, I think they should start doing a celebrity aisle, right? Where it's just where there's just like a poster of the celebrity and their beverage, whatever it is. And it's like, oh, there's Matthew McConaughey and Wild Turkey. Oh, look, there's ZZ Top and the Balcones whiskey, which, by the way, I just polished off my bottle of that. That's good.
The Balcones ZZ Top one.
Really
the little
good.
character on there is awesome.
Oh, it's really, really awesome. But there's so many of them now. It's hard to keep track. But I will mention
some of them not so bueno.
If you have always wondered how good proper 12 or bad proper number 12 Conor McGregor's whiskey really is, we did a whole show about that just a couple of shows ago, so you can go back and find it in the archives and check it out. It is a you right there?
Yeah, no, I spilled a little bit.
See, this is why I clear the net.
Yeah,
on most of these.
OSHA compliance on this.
I know. I had to see a knife come out. I had to see all kinds of things happening right here in the studio.
Right.
Danger.
So now you understand why I try to do this at home before we get into the studio.
Right.
It's because I'm all about safety.
For you knife nerds, that is a zero tolerance knife, by the way.
I guarantee that some people at least knew that. So all right. So Ian, tell us what this says on this, because this whiskey was this actually a collaboration?
Well, let me tell you. It says, according to the Surgeon General. No, I'm just joking. Whiskey, the Whistler Imperial Stout Cast Finish is a delicious collaboration between Boann Distillery and Laugill Brewing Company.
Okay.
Loughgill, 2 words.
Okay.
We filled a number of the finest sherry casks with Laugill's Imperial Stout. I'm just going to pronounce it that way from now on. Imparting its rich chocolatey malt tones into the wood. We then refilled these casks with our signature blend of Irish wheat, malt, and grain whiskeys, which bestow deeper characters of roasted coffee, dried fruits, and cocoa nibs.
So interesting. They started as sherry casks, and then they put the Imperial Stout in them to coat the wood with the Imperial Stout.
Oh, this smells amazing.
And then they drained that out, and that would have been fun to drink, just that. But then they drained that out and replaced it with their whiskey. So
I would wear this like as a cologne. It's beautiful.
yeah.
Like it's the malt right up front and the chocolatiness on the nose is pretty amazing.
Beats the hell
There's
out
like
of
a little bit of a funk in there too that's kind of interesting. I think it probably the sherry cask influence.
I think you're right, because you can pick that up on the nose like right at the end. Yeah.
I feel like I smell that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's really incredibly interesting nose on this.
This is a very interesting whiskey.
Oh yeah. Oh. Like it keeps going too.
It sure does.
It's interesting. It's buttery. It's
which I didn't necessarily
sweet.
expect. Yeah.
Now a lot of Irish whiskeys tend to be sweet, but I don't think I've ever said one is buttery before. It's chocolatey. It's like but chocolate in a silky kind of mousse kind of way, not like a chocolate bar kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't get cacao nibs, which I know they said were in the description, as much as I get like a creamy
big vanilla and almost cotton candy on the retrohale.
That's a lot going on.
There's
like you
so
said,
much
it keeps
happening.
going.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
Very interesting. I'm getting the cotton candy now. You're absolutely right. Right on the button about that.
And a little tobacco-y kind of thing going on as well.
Very interesting. What's the ABV on this?
This is coming in at 43%. Mm-hmm. So slightly overproof, not big, no color added, non-chill filtered.
It's fascinating. But I will tell you that on the beginning of the finish, if that's a thing, the beginning of the finish, it does present itself as an Irish whiskey. It's got just that right Irish whiskey vibe to it. And then here comes all that other stuff that happens and keeps going. But well, this will be very interesting to go back and forth with this and our Imperial Stout, which we have coming up.
It says, from the goodness of the river Boann, we take our name. Mm-hmm. From the goodness of the Boann Valley, we take our ingredients.
And I think it's got a lot of goodness.
Oh, the little wooden top to the cork has musical notes.
All right, we'll explore that and be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting, our program. Craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
This fine spirit.
I was asked about it in the break. We didn't share this in the previous segment, but it was the question was, how much did the bottle cost? And I want to say it was about $38. So this was not an expensive whiskey. I've been known to buy some expensive whiskeys, but this one was not.
It's pretty darn good. I'm going to go ahead and highly recommend it and go get some myself.
See, and this is what we talk about from time to time. This is called Smoking and Toasting, directly influencing sales.
That's right.
Because Ian will be buying a bottle of this
at least one more
on
bottle.
his way home, right? So that's the way it works. That is the way it works.
I like that there's a little specs right on my way home, too.
Yeah, see, it works out really well like that, doesn't it? I'm really digging this. One of the things I wanted to mention about it was I think it gets better as it goes, and not just because you're maybe, experiencing the alcohol, but I mean from a flavor standpoint.
Once your palate kind of adjusts to
yes,
it,
absolutely. Like it gets even better. And I'm actually picking up, and this is really weird because when we get to this next beer, this Graceland, it's a guy in a banana suit dancing like Elvis on the front label of the beer. But I was just going to mention, I'm getting actually a little bit of banana in this whiskey.
Elvis banana dancing?
Yeah, maybe it's just the suggestion.
Banana Elvis dancing.
It's a psychosomatic suggestion from the dancing banana Elvis on the upcoming bottle of Stout. But anyway, we'll get to that. But first, we have to get to the most popular segment on this program, and God knows why. It's the segment where we bring you story from the news. These are not taken from parody sites. These are things that are believed, at least, to be true from legitimate news sources. And we bring you a story from them that is sometimes, although not always, about drinking, but is always best listened to when you've been drinking. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Well, welcome to Drinking News, and our topic today is things in your pants.
All right, is this something where I need to have some background music to create the mood?
Maybe.
Or should I pour beer instead?
Well, man, that's a tough challenge.
I don't know what's happening.
That's a tough challenge. Why don't you give us some true crime music? You come up with any true crime? As shoplifting has become increasingly common as a crime over the last few years, we've all heard about stores like Walgreens and CVS taking drastic measures to reduce shrinkage by placing more and more products behind plexiglass
I've experienced
and under
shrinkage.
lock and key. Well, as a side note, my general rule for reducing shrinkage is just not to jump into really cold water. But that's not important right now. These steps by Walgreens and other stores come after more and more customers have tried stealing items by placing them under their clothing. And it's not just tubes of lipstick or box of condoms.
No.
Shoplifters have been apprehended recently after stuffing... Oh, that was nice. After stuffing ribeye steaks, a ham, or even a whole chicken down their pants and trying to leave the store.
Hold on. What kind of pants do you have?
A Florida man.
Oh, wait for it. Florida man.
A Florida man was caught leaving a store with a stolen crossbow in his pants.
Oh.
And a woman in
How
Idaho.
the heck did he get caught? I mean, it's a crossbow.
A woman in Idaho was apprehended trying to stuff a chainsaw into hers.
Of course she was.
That's going to leave a mark. Yeah.
I mean, these have got to be stretchy pants, right?
Yeah. But this story, today's drinking news story, may be the one to top them all. Apparently, another Florida woman,
Florida man,
25-year-old Ariel McCann-LeQuire,
Florida man,
was in the passenger seat of a car pulled over in Punta Gorda for running a stop sign, according to the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. The Florida woman and a 22-year-old Florida man who was driving the car,
Florida couple.
They initially told officers they were trying to collect snakes and frogs from underneath an overpass, which seems believable because, Florida. Deputies were given permission by the couple to search their bags. And when they opened the trunk, officers retrieved, and you can't make this up, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles backpack stuffed
I mean, what else would you use?
with 41 three-stripe turtles.
No, I can't do this anymore.
They were
I'm gonna pour beer.
The turtles in question were apparently neither teenaged nor mutants, and upon evaluation, the turtles also did not seem to possess any sort of ninja skills. But, as if that wasn't crazy enough, our story now takes a bizarre little turn. When deputies asked the pair if they had anything else, McCann-LeQuire, the Florida woman, reached into her yoga pants.
I told you they were going to be stretchy.
Pulled out a 1-foot-long alligator from her pants.
Alligator pants.
Because
I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
because of course she did. Because Florida.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Yeah, McCann-LeQuire pled guilty last week to possessing an American alligator, possessing
I mean, how do you hide that?
possessing more than one turtle per day, possessing
Wait, that's a law?
That's a law apparently in Florida. You can only possess one turtle per
There's
day.
There's a story about that.
Oh, there is. We'll have to dig back and find that.
That's its own story.
What does that even mean?
I have to drink more before I get to the end of the story. She was pled guilty to possessing an American alligator, possessing more than one turtle per day, transporting more than one turtle or turtle eggs, and one count of possessing a soft-shell turtle, which sounds delicious. She was sentenced to 6 months probation, 200 hours of community service, and she was ordered to donate $500 to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Committee.
They didn't tell her not to wear yoga pants, huh?
Now, obviously, we don't have to tell you how freaking dangerous it is to place a live alligator of any size in your pants. Gators, according to the Smithsonian National Zoo,
that sounds like a hold my beer moment.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, gators have
Check this out.
between 74 and 80 teeth in their mouth.
Bro, you'll never guess what I have in my pants.
Not to state
come on.
not to state the extremely obvious, but we would strongly recommend that you should try and keep as much distance as possible between those gator teeth and the family jewels.
Try to keep as many alligators out of your pants as can be had in a lifetime.
Or in Florida woman's case, away from her vajayjay or any of her difficult to replace lady
moo.
bits. So, but that gator might
of
not
despair.
be. That's good. I have to remember that. That gator might not be the only dangerous thing that you should try to keep away from the inside of your trousers. So as a public service, those of us here at Drinking News have put together this top 5 list of things that could be even more dangerous in your pants than a baby alligator. Top 5 things more dangerous than a gator to put in your pants. Number 5. Those late-night Ginzu TV knife sets. You've seen those things cut through nails and blocks of woods and even a radiator hose. Number 4, a Red Ryder range model air rifle BB gun with a compass in the stock, like Ralphie wanted in A Christmas Story.
I have one of those.
Because, as you know, you could put your eye out. Or
it's
something.
not to give this away, but it's right by my front door. It is loaded, and it's in the umbrella holder.
Good to know. Number 3, a bottle of Malort. Number 2, one of those weird-looking Chucky dolls, because you never know. And the number 1 thing more dangerous than a gator to put in your pants, number 1, the honey badger, because we all know exactly what it is that he does not have to give. And so, reporting live from Florida, where I'm keeping gators and Ginsu knives and everything else far away from my radiator hose. My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Yeah, honey badger doesn't give a Florida. Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
Man, that's good whiskey.
Yeah, it really is, and it gets better. And I'm not just saying this because I'm more under the effect of the alcohol. It just the taste gets better as you drink it.
Dude, look at this.
Oh yeah, this looks like motor oil, doesn't it?
the look on Mr. Moreau's face over there. He's like,
now you don't have to participate. So, all right. So
this looks amazing to me. Like, this is what I want in a beer.
First of all, it's been a while since
actually, I really want alcohol in a beer, but after that, I like it to look like this.
It's been a while since we've had anything from Equilibrium Brewing on the show, but we have had their beers before.
Yes.
And they've been quite creative and very interesting. This is their Graceland Imperial Stout with peanut butter, marshmallow, and bananas.
I was going to say it smells like marshmallows. You can smell the marshmallow, like maybe a toasted marshmallow.
Now you can see why they have the dancing banana Elvis.
Okay.
Because it's like toasted peanut butter and marshmallows.
Peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
You know how good those Swiss, those General Foods instant coffee smell when you open the can?
Yeah, totally.
They don't taste that good. But you know how they smell? Like, this smells like that in the best possible way.
Yeah.
This
smell
is
the marshmallow.
Like, the nose on this is amazing.
You know what? It reminded me of, the smell reminded me of the flavor of a banana split.
Oh, this is like 3 kinds of fantastic.
By the way, I think this bottle cost more than the whiskey. But
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was about
That's
the
the
same.
other thing about.
I think it was about 36. Yeah, this is one of those tabloid things. I think it was about $38. So. But let's see if it's worth it.
It is so good.
Yeah.
Like, this is.
Wow.
That's great.
Like, this is top of the rock right here.
It really does taste like a banana split.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm super curious to see what happens when I go back to the whiskey.
Yeah, me too.
You know. Oh. It brings out a what is it? Like the cotton candy thing that I tasted earlier. It brings that out and gives it kind of that
almost bubblegummy. Like
that powdered that like, but that cheap, like, it came with the cards.
Like when you used to get a baseball card and it had that stick of really cheap gum in it.
That would
really
break
hard.
when you chewed on it, and then it would
you'd have
finally stick together. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, like the dust on those things is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, what was that dust that they put on there? So I guess so it didn't stick to everything.
I guess maybe so it wouldn't like seep into the card. You know, you get your card and it's all warped because the gum seeped into it. I don't know, but that's
the coffee flavor in this is just absolutely delightful.
It's
also
interesting
very
because
syrupy.
it's
so brown, but when you catch the light just right, it has a slight redness to it.
It's very syrupy though. Like you almost could think of this being poured on top of the ice cream in the banana split, right?
I love this.
Yeah.
I would drink this floating down the river. Like, I have no problems with that.
Yeah, I would be like, how can I get a Mexican lager? Can I get some Buckle Bunny? Give me something light, a Pilsner, anything. Ian's like, I'll drink this floating down the river. And you would too, wouldn't you?
I would totally do it. Speaking of which, I'm going to be doing that this weekend.
Yeah. Have you got your big cigar ready to go?
No, I forgot to buy
you need
one.
to go get a big cigar?
I'll go get one this week. I'll pick up a JFR, but I also saw a Fuente that is just, it's like 9 inches long.
For those who haven't heard him talk about this before, Ian, it's like a summer ritual for you.
Yeah.
He
My
goes,
brew club goes.
He goes tubing, and he takes a cigar that is so huge that he's still smoking it after he's tubed all the way down the river.
Yes. By the time I get out of the river, I still have cigar to smoke. Yes.
I love that.
It's fantastic.
I absolutely love that. So when I went to the river, we didn't really tube down the river because the water level was low. So we kind of got in the river and like floated around a little bit.
We're gonna be right off a canyon lake, so I suspect that's gonna be more like what's going on this year. But I can drink something like this
Yeah.
on the lake too.
Yeah, so I got the biggest kick out of he's my wife's brother's son. That makes him my step cousin.
I'll go with that.
Anyway, Jonathan, great guy. Love hanging out with him. He had a cooler on a tube, like floating around there with him that had beers and stuff in it. And they got to messing around. The cooler floated away, down the river. So they had to go to all these other sites, people's sites down the river. Have you seen our cooler?
Because somebody down the river was like, dude,
Yeah. Except
my dreams have come true.
Except I hate to break their heart. Jonathan drinks Michelob Ultra, so that was what was in it. So yeah, but still, free beer. Yeah,
That's like having river water on river water.
Yeah, exactly. Or ranch water at the ranch.
Ranch water at the ranch.
It works well those days. But anyway, you're going to be on a tube floating down the river with an enormous cigar that it will take you longer to smoke that cigar than the whole trip down the river.
I will also, at some point in time, about 2 hours into this trip, realize that no one I know has gotten out and has to pee.
Yeah, that's a big realization.
And when you're floating out, there's certain gritty truths that when you're floating down a river, you gotta.
And the fish in the river are like, dudes, come on. All right, we're going to take a break.
There's a warm current going down this river.
Sounds like a drinking news story in the making. We will take a break, and we'll be right back to wrap up the show. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And Ian, I have to do this, even though this is our final segment. It's a relatively short one. I have to do this because I can't promise it for 2 shows and never do it. The whiskey bars, best whiskey bars, 12 best whiskey bars in the U.S. All I'm going to do is give you the title because we're short on time. I'm going to give you the title and then encourage you to go to mashed.com, which is a really cool website. It's a lot like liquor.com or foodandwine.com.
Did we not make it to that again?
We're going to make it because I'm going to give you the titles of these. So there's 12. Starting with number 1, the Brandy Library in New York City. Despite the name, it's a whiskey bar.
That sounds like a place I want to stop.
Yeah, 7 Grand in Los Angeles, which looks really cool in the photo. I encourage you to check it out. Delilah's in Chicago. My, Delilah. The Ashton Cigar Bar in Philadelphia, which I regret to say was not yet built when I lived in Philadelphia, or I would have been
awesome.
a regular at that. The Multnomah Whiskey Library in Portland, Oregon. This one just looks amazing just looking at the photos. You'll get a kick out of these if you go check out this article at mashed.com. The Jack Rose Dining Saloon in Washington, D.C. Hundreds and hundreds of bottles of whiskey on the wall here.
Nice.
Really amazing. And the Old Hickory Whiskey Bar in Pensacola, Florida. So there's a smaller city that came into the to the ranks here. Bourbon, that's the name of the place. Bourbon in Columbia.
That
South
pretty much
Carolina.
says it all.
I think it takes care of it. And I love that this one is in here because it's right up the road from us in San Antonio, Texas. 1919, they say, is an amazing whiskey bar. Just as its name applies, it transports you to the clandestine world of hidden speakeasies of the Prohibition era. The Next Whiskey Bar in Washington, D.C. looks really amazing on this. And again, you'll want to spend time on this article, just kind of taking
That
it all
has
in
to be
and making notes.
that Doors reference. Show me a way to the next whiskey bar.
Absolutely. The Flatiron Room in New York City looks very, very interesting as well. The Scotch Lodge in Portland, another Portland, Oregon entry. And so there you go. Those are your 12 entries in the must-visit whiskey bars.
If you're in Houston, then you got to go to Room 101 downtown across the street from.
So that's actually like a local haunt for me.
Yeah,
Room
you got
101,
it's right across the
around
street
the
from
corner.
House of Blues, right, and then a couple blocks from your house.
And they have a great whiskey selection. That's
so if you're
where-
looking to talk to crews, you can just go out there and
You
start
just
walking around.
yeah, just walk in
and
on any
yell.
random Thursday, and I'll be there at the bar.
And then
that was where you and I first
Poison
had
Girl
Slane.
over on Montrose, right across from Shaw's Tattoos, I believe. So, if anyone knows where that is, but anyway, yeah, Poison Girl's a great bar as well. So.
And there's great little hidden gem whiskey bars all over
Absolutely.
the place. And there's great. I wish I could remember the name of the one that I went to in Baton Rouge. Louisiana. Stayed there overnight one night on my way into to do something, and it was right around the corner from the hotel, and just walked in. I was like, this place is great.
Oh, I love it when you find those places.
When you just walk in and go, this place, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting this.
Hotels,
awesome.
Staying in a hotel and trying to find a local haunt is sometimes a little sketchy if you're just walking.
Well, it can be, depending on what part of town you're in. Is it touristy? Is it not?
The only place to drink around here is a Red Robin.
But they do have a couple of good beers on tap.
They always have a
Red
couple
Robin.
good beers on tap, and you can have the fries.
Yeah, it's better. It's better than Buffalo Wild Wings, where I believe their slogan is 38 beers on tap and one of them is good.
Yes, maybe.
I think
one of them's always
slogan.
Shiner.
Yeah, well,
at least around here.
Okay, so they have two, because they have Sam Adams and Shiner.
True. Two good beers.
But I don't need to go out of my way to find Sam Adams and Shiner.
No,
you should be able to find those anywhere.
You can actually go to most convenience stores around a Buffalo Wild Wing and get a better selection.
Oh, no question. If there's a time-wise, just bounce right in and you can find a pretty cool little selection of craft beer in the cooler. It's happening more and more. Although I am still a little distressed at how much of it that makes it into the coolers at places like this, and onto the menu at restaurants for that matter. That's AB owned.
Pure laziness. Pure laziness on the part of the beverage director.
100%. So we encourage you, beverage directors, to not be lazy. We
will call you out.
We encourage you who love peanut butter and nanner to try this Equilibrium beer. If you can still find it, it's definitely worth it. And we encourage everybody to come and join us again next week's show. I have no idea what we're doing next week. Do you have any?
I'm working on it right now. We're going to see what happens. I'll let you know.
All right, fair enough. We are excited to be.
It's either going to be just us or we'll have an awesome guest.
Well,
I'm waiting on confirmation back.
All right, fair enough. I won't jinx it. I want to say thank you to everybody who's involved in making this program happen. That includes our executive producer, Adam in the Sky, our engineer, Terry Michaels, Ian, and myself. And thanks to our special in-studio observers this week. Thank you guys for hanging out. I hope we haven't turned you off to the world of podcasting forever. Have a wonderful week, my friends. We will be back with you next week, and until we meet again. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Sunshine is so good to you. Whatever happens, don't leave it so soon. It's alright when it's okay.